Welcome everyone to episode 65. I can't believe we got here, but I'm so happy. You're 65.
What up? 65.
Yeah,
I'm so seasoned.
So exciting. So exciting to have you here. Lidice Porro, LF Porro Law. Tell everybody who you are. Well, I already said who you are, but what you do. What you do.
I?
Yeah. And tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So I'm
and thank
Lidice.
you. Thank you for being here, obviously.
Me. This is really nice because I also feel like we're friends.
Yeah.
So this is a little more comfortable than any other setting.
We're just, yapping, two girls yapping.
Yeah. So my name is Lidice. I own LF Porro Law. I'm an attorney. I'm a business attorney. And I focus on helping private practice owners in the healthcare field, such as like BCBAs, all the therapies, OTs, PTs, and veterinarians, physicians, that whole world, med spa owners. And I help them be proactive to avoid issues such as disputes or questions that may arise. I don't do litigation. I just take a more proactive approach to business ownership and specifically in that healthcare field.
And first, why law? Like, did you always have dreams of being an attorney or tell us about that?
Definitely not. So when I went to undergrad, I wanted to be a journalist. I had someone in our family. She was the editor-in-chief of Vanidades. I don't know if you've ever heard of that magazine. And I thought that was so awesome. I thought it was so cool. I'd seen, we've seen all the movies like the 13 Going on 30 and like it looks so nice, so pretty. And I wanted to do that. I've always been very strong in writing. So it was natural to pick that kind of major. And the moment I stepped into a journalism 101 class, I was like, absolutely not.
Really?
Yeah. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be like out in the field and like getting in, interviewing people. And that did not appeal to me. I was like sitting at a desk writing my thoughts.
Right.
And, just that part of it. Those were my strengths. So immediately went to my advisor and I was like, you know what? I think I'll go to law school because I knew that was my strength. I knew that writing, researching, that kind of area would be something I would do well in. And I always knew I didn't want to be a veterinarian because I hated blood. Mm-hmm. So, but I knew that I needed to do something, higher education. That kind of always felt like that's where I needed to be. I have an immigrant story background. I came from Cuba. So that it led me to law school. And then when I applied and got into law school, I thought I would do something in the immigration field, which I guess gets into, my story of law. I don't know if you want to get into that already.
Yeah, absolutely. Please. It's so good. Please give it to us.
It definitely wasn't something that, I dreamt up as a little girl that I would be an attorney. I would have told you I would have been a teacher before that. I would like set my little stuffed animals.
Yeah. And I was obsessed with like writing on a whiteboard and like markers and
And we kind of still do that because even in our professions now, like we still educate our clients and like other people of why they need these things and why they need to be protected. So I guess we're still doing that. Mm-hmm. But so once I graduated law school, I went into immigration and I was doing that for a little while, but my idea of going into immigration was helping people like myself, like with my story of, bringing their family members over, family reunification and things like that. But I was doing things like going to detention centers, I was involved in immigration court. And it was just a very stressful situation for me personally. Yeah. Like, I don't think I was built to be doing litigation or being in the courtroom. Even though I did a great job and I always over prepared and did all that, I was at a point where I was growing my family and the stress of preparing for something that I was not enjoying was just, it was too much. So I kind of segued into some career changes. I started working for a company. I was like their person at that point, kind of like an outside general counsel role, and which is becoming a lot more popular nowadays. And it's, it is very important role to have if you're a business owner, and helping my parents along the way because they became owners of an animal hospital. So my mom re-credentialed and, became a veterinarian here in the States after we arrived from Cuba, which was a long process. And when she got her job as a veterinarian, shortly after they purchased an animal hospital. So even before I went to law school, I was always their person for questions or, trying to figure things out. And it wasn't until one day they received a subpoena, and I was already an attorney at this point. I wasn't, fully on my own yet. I was just, always helping them with everything. And it was a scary moment, right? So when I received the message, my daughter mode kicked in, and I was very much like, oh my gosh, scary, what's happening? And then, my lawyer brain was like, okay, let's read this. What is it about? What does it say? And pretty quickly, it was not a big deal, right? It was requesting records. It was for a case that had nothing to do with them. It was, about some other matter that just happened to include, what they had paid for their pet at that time. But I was able to, look into it, see how they could respond to it, what they could object to, if anything, what kind of notice they needed to give to those patients, those clients. But it was something that was resolved, before bedtime that night. And that was the first moment where it really clicked for me of what would they have done had they not had me? Because I could have probably done a Google search, and, at that time, AI was not what it is today. And I could have figured it out, or maybe asked someone that I knew was an attorney or something like that. But had I not known the resources where I knew as an attorney, I could find these answers looking into the court and looking at that specific court and what the methods are for answering these types of requests and things like that. Had they not had me, then they would have been up all night. They would have either done it wrong or given too much information, or maybe not, notified the client correctly. So it's like, it really is, you don't know what you don't know.
And the cost.
Exactly.
The cost of finding an attorney because you're panicking, right? That's what the public deals with when you get a letter like that. It's so mortifying.
Yes.
And then you're willing to pay whatever because you just want it solved and you need someone's help. So, the cost alone is crippling.
Yeah,
for that.
For sure. And, when you're a business owner and you're in that position also, sometimes you don't see the value of even spending money on something like that until you're in an uncomfortable situation or in a scary situation. So from that point on, I really got my wheels turning, because another thing I wouldn't have told you years ago was that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I saw my parents do it, but I never saw myself in that light. I don't have any legal connection in my family. No one's an attorney. Everyone's in healthcare, actually, or other, businesses, but very heavy on the entrepreneurship. And I never saw myself like that. I was more, a behind the scenes person, but I also didn't love authority. Like, I didn't love being under someone. So I think it was inevitable once I was like real with myself.
Yeah.
Like, this is where you need to be.
Tell me about that. Well, first of all, I love your story. I think it's so good and it's so similar. I was born here, but my dad did come from Cuba when he was 14. And so he had, a story similar to yours where he a child of an immigrant is always the one resolving all the problems because you speak the language, right? Yeah. It's a language barrier issue until it's not, or sometimes it's forever. Like, his parents never learned the language. So, that's, I'm familiar with it because I saw them do it, my mom and my dad with both of their parents. But tell me about that feeling of man, I actually might go out on my own and do this. Can you describe what that felt like?
Scary.
It still is. I could guarantee, I could assert it still is.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Every day. That feeling was, I don't know how to describe it, but it was as cliche as it sounds. It's almost like a light bulb moment, but not in your head, like in your soul, because you are so like, we're our worst critics. So part of me was like, you can't do that. And then stepping into it and, helping other people and seeing my own value in those kind of situations was what I personally needed to tell myself, like, yes, you can. And you're amazing at it. And people have been telling you this forever. It just took myself seeing it to believe it, or to start believing it. Because
there's still days.
A daily thing.
We're daily convincing ourselves.
Right.
No, I think I'll say maybe social media has leveled the playing field, but I feel like growing up for me, business owners were far-fetched. Like my parents became entrepreneurs. I was in college. So I wasn't young. I didn't see it young. They worked in corporate America, both in sales. So I didn't grow up with entrepreneur parents, and when they took the leap, it was frightening for all of us. At 49 and 47, taking money out of your 401k to start a business that you've never done. You never sold insurance, never owned a business. It's risky. So I saw it as an adult, but I feel like growing up, like business owners were just so far off. Like that's almost like for other people, like that wasn't something that we did. And here we are, and I think that even more for our generation, I feel like we're riskier and we're more willing to take a bet on ourselves. And I think that the internet is part of the reason why we have the availability and the capacity to do it.
Right. Everyone has a platform now.
Right.
So you can make your own, statement and case for yourself.
And you could be everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. It's boundless. Boundless?
Sure.
Boundaries. Boundaryless? I don't know.
Boundless.
Yeah. There's just, I could talk to somebody in Spain if they own a business here and help, there's no boundary to how far we can reach.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So in that, I guess that road led me to taking on my own clients and seeing, okay, I can do this for a lot of people. And, making that risk of, okay, this is the time I'm going to open my LLC. I'm going to do this the right way. I'm going to get the software, start taking on clients. And that's just like a whole nother road, which I feel like that has been really helpful for me because I can relate to my clients. So a lot of my clients I see healthcare private practice owners in all areas of their business ownership. Sometimes they are 1099s working for, another entity, and they're seeing what they can do on their own because they're already doing it. Or sometimes they own these practices that have been around for like over 3 years, over 5 years. With the different levels of private practice owners that I help, I can see as a business owner myself what their needs are, what it is that they need to run a successful business. Something that I have in common with them is that they put a lot on the line, right? And I saw that with my own family being entrepreneurs this is not an easy thing. And I know we hear it all the time and we repeat it. And I know you talk about it a lot with people on your podcast, but it'd be easier to not be a business owner.
100%.
So when I speak to clients, since what I offer is proactive, you don't have a problem yet, right? And I'm not trying to come at you saying, you should be thinking of all these possible problems, but it's like, yeah, but you know that you need insurance. And sometimes I feel like it's easier for them to get insurance because it's a requirement.
Sure.
Right?
100%.
So I was actually thinking about this idea. Like I actually really dislike talking about operating agreements because I feel like I talk about them all the time now. And because I just feel like it's so common sense. You own a business, you get an operating agreement, no matter if you're alone or especially if you're with somebody else, but that's what you do. And the fact that, people don't know that or know the value of it is definitely mind-boggling for me sometimes. But
okay, so let me pause you right there, and I'm sorry to interrupt you, but tell us why. I know you're tired of talking about it, but we've never had anybody explain it here. So tell the listener that's a business owner why they need it.
Yeah, so it's kind of like the constitution of your business. It's or the will of your business. There's so many parallels with the operating agreement because it's the blueprint of what you're running. It's going to say, when it was established, it's going to say what kind of contributions were made at the get-go, what happens if you dissolve, if you choose to dissolve, if you choose to sell. And there's a lot more meat that you can put in the operating agreement. You don't have to do the cookie cutter, like 3-page template. Like I don't recommend those at all. When I create operating agreements, I try to get really deep into the business owner's mindset. Not just, oh, you created a private practice for physical therapy. Great. Let's put that into a document that says a little bit about it. Because a lot of operating agreements say the same things, and it's very easy to grab one from the internet and just input like dates and names and like be done with it. But if you want something that's going to last the years of, transformation that your business is going to have, you want something that's very detailed, and you want to almost, put in writing that where your mind was at when you created that business. And I think that, outlives all the changes that can happen. And yes, you can go back and you can make amendments. And, if you add a person, that can all be changed. But having that starting point is so important. And I think that a lot of business owners don't really find a lot of value in it because it's not mandated. And that's what I was getting at. Like things like insurance and things like that, you're required to have it for certain things, whether it be like your professional license or if
your landlord.
Yeah. If you have a physical location, you need certain things. You need to like provide evidence of that. No one ever asks you for evidence of your operating agreement. They should. I talk to bankers all the time and, people that do business development in banks and stuff. And I'm like, it always like is mind boggling to me that I talk to clients and they're like, oh, no one's ever asked me for an operating agreement. And I'm like, well, they really should, because they're basing it off of, articles of incorporation, which anyone can do. And then like your word. So having something in writing that's actually signed, it's official is so important. And I don't think people understand the value of it. So I'd be very curious to know if, the state of Florida, for example, made it like a mandate that you had to have an operating agreement when you create your entity. I feel like that would be a different story, and maybe businesses would run better. Not that everyone would do it, because people do what they want to do, especially in Florida.
Right. I think that's it's just people get into business mainly because they have a passion, not because they know. And nobody teaches us these things, right? Like nobody. If you don't have a circle of friends or a community where it has business owners in it, right, that you can talk to, that you can ask questions to, you just don't know what you don't know. And it's the list is endless of things that you don't know.
To that point though, sometimes what you do know is detrimental for you, because I have a lot of, people that I meet at events or things like that, and they very much go off on, well, so-and-so is doing it this way.
Sure.
Or where I worked, this is how we did it. And the documents that I have are from that place. So I think it's almost worse when you know, because you might want to mimic that version. And then you realize, oh, I want to do it a different way down the line. So for me, I think that if I had someone in my family that was an attorney, I probably would have like copy paste and done how they did it, just because that's all I knew.
Sure.
So for me, it's like I learn as I go and try to teach that kind of same mentality to my clients, in terms of like, things are always changing. Healthcare is always shifting. The contracts that you had a couple years ago need to be reviewed. They need to be looked at, policy changes and all of that.
Yeah. It's interesting. I agree with you. I for sure agree with you with that concept of like copying what's already pre-existing and stuff. I just think that like to an extent, just people don't know to ask the question. It happened to me with like the S Corp thing, right? And like I found out when I had to pay the employment tax that I didn't pay on my taxes the year before. Like that, don't come for me, IRS. I'm already paying it back. But it wasn't a big deal. It wasn't a big amount of money, but I didn't know what I didn't know,
right?
And I didn't know what to ask. Which I guess now with having AI, like there's also probably no excuse to not know, but you still need to know what type of question to ask, right? And so I think
how to do it correctly, because even though you don't really know how to actually file it or make sure everything's good and moving on, you're doing it correctly.
Right. Let's talk about the private practices. So what is a common theme in between the ones that you are helping, have helped, serve in our community here? Like, what do you think the common theme is in between the ones that are like crushing it and have their stuff together? What do you think it is?
I love this question, because it kind of makes me think of like my favorite client versus the ones that I'm like, okay, this is more of a challenge and I gotta work on them. The ones that are crushing it are the ones that they're not only great clinicians, they're good business owners. Because I think it's very important to make that distinction. There are a lot of people opening med spas. There's a lot of people opening clinics, mobile or not, or going into schools. And they're all really great at their jobs, but they're not really great at running a business. And unfortunately, some of them are really great at running a business and not so great at their jobs. So there's also that flip of the coin. But I think that the ones that are crushing it are mindful of compliance. They want to be able to sleep at night. They want to be able to ask all the questions and aren't afraid to ask all the questions, even when they have to pay for it, because they want real peace of mind, not just I put it in AI or I put it in Google and I'm okay with that answer. They're the ones that aren't okay with just that, because there's something in the back of their mind that won't allow them to settle for what's available when they know there's experts for it, when they know there's ways to protect themselves in that go beyond, things that they had seen in the previous clinic they were at, or, seen in the field. So those business owners are very much in line with not only the clinic side of their work, but the business. So, when they get employees, they're classifying them correctly. The 1099 versus W-2 is becoming like a weekly occurrence for me. I'm getting that question all the time. I'm getting a lot of pushback from it because, unfortunately, in the healthcare field and maybe other fields as well, it's very common to just, well, everybody else is doing it. And the reality is that the IRS is becoming more, serious on the audit side and scrutinizing these things. And what we're finding is, there will be an issue. They'll have an actual issue with an employee. And they're like, well, this is what it says in the contract and I'm going to go after them. But the reality is that you are going to be under scrutiny yourself. Your contract and the way that you treated that employee, you called them a 1099, but you controlled them like a W-2. Now you're putting yourself in trouble as well. So is it worth it for you to go after that employee now because of what happened, when now you're going to be under the microscope? So it's a fine line, because it's like, yes, you have rights as the employer, and yes, you could limit XYZ. However, because you controlled this other part, now you're going to be.
Yeah, because they were misclassified.
Right.
Everyone's a 1099.
Yeah. So, and in terms of like what I can help them with, I feel like I do a lot of education, because thankfully a lot of the clients that I work with are not scaling to that level yet where they have that issue. That's more something I see with an established business, and they're coming to me with the issue already happening. So at that point, I listen to them and I say, this is what you can do. However, this is what you need to be doing now, because you want your business to continue running and you want it to continue running correctly. And you might not have been proactive years ago, but you still can before something, arises. So that's a lot of what I'm seeing. And that's the other side of the type of client that I see, right? The ones that are not necessarily crushing it are the ones having these issues come up. And it's probably because, they didn't go to an attorney for the documents, or maybe they did years ago and the laws have changed and the way that we classify employees has changed. And, supervision in the healthcare field, a lot of that, plays into how these people are classified. So not asking the right questions or being okay with so-and-so does it and they're fine. I don't think that's not going to, equate to crushing it in business. So
that's really interesting. And we deal with that on the workers' comp side. Like people, I have someone right now that's like trying to qualify for a really large project in the construction space, but she's using 1099s. Yeah. And they want proof of a certain type of coverage or a certain aspect of workers' comp, and I can't provide it to her because she doesn't want to put them on W-2, and she doesn't want to pay the workers' comp cost.
Yeah.
And I mean, it comes down to if the business is scaling, or if you're going to decide to scale, the owner needs to have a conversation with themselves and be like, all right, it's time to do things the right way, so that I can grow properly.
Right.
And I have that conversation a lot too, from an insurance perspective.
Yeah, I can imagine. And like, that makes me think of two things, which is, it takes money to grow and to grow correctly. It's not cheap.
No.
You can't be cheap with things like that. Especially when it comes to legal, when it comes to insurance, when it comes to taxes, like those are like the big things.
The three buckets.
Yeah. You have to I didn't want to pay my insurance, but I had to.
But you did today. Did you do it because you knew you were coming here?
No. Listen, that email's been there forever. And I was like,
I did not charge her to be on this episode.
Full disclosure. Yeah, because it's those are the top ones.
Right.
And for a while I wasn't working with an accountant, and then I'm like, I can't do this on my own. Like, even though I'm knowledgeable and I was scrappy and I could figure it out, it's not worth it.
The thing is that there comes a time, I'm so happy that you said that, because there comes a time where it's like, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. And especially now, because you are wearing the entrepreneur hat, right? And the firm owner hat, now you're wearing so many of different hats, right? Obviously you have children, so you have the personal side of your life, right? A family to maintain, but now you're the law and the marketer and the sales and the admin. It's so many things that if you can offload one of the things, it should be your accounting.
Yeah.
You know?
And all the big scary things. And to that point, that makes me think of my clients too, and what I try to offer them, which is that fractional mindset of having a team. And that kind of goes back to my story of why I even opened this law firm and everything. And that's having people that you can count on. Right. And that's, I'm someone that now that I go to different networking events and stuff, I'm like, if you know someone that's a business owner, they should know me. Let's start with that. Because sometimes people don't understand what you do, and you go to all these meetings and you're giving your elevator pitch, but it doesn't land. And I'm just like, I am the person for any business owner. Whether, I can help them specifically or not, they should at least have a conversation with me, because chances are, if it's not me, I'm going to know who it is, because I'm in the network. I have the referral base. So I am a good connector for business owners in general. And having that connection is great for them and for me as well. So what I try to instill in my clients is having a team. So since I'm more focused on the healthcare field and healthcare private practices, it's having an accountant. There's a lot of questions that I have to ask when I'm creating those documents or reviewing documents. That's like, well, have you talked to your accountant about it? Especially around the classification question. When it comes to entity formation, do you know, okay, LLC, but do you want to be taxed as an S Corp? Do you know what implications that's going to, have on you and your business and your personal situation? So those are things that I don't go into that. I'm not a tax attorney. I can give you very basic information, but you need someone that's going to know your personal financials and your goals and what that translates to for the business side. And then in terms of other things, obviously insurance and credentialing, billing, not so much marketing and things like that. I focus more on the structural and makeup and compliance and legality. But those are the team members I offer my clients. And it's people that I've met through other people that have, worked with them, that I trust, that I've, met with one-on-one as well. Because it's very important. I'm not the one that's going to solve all your problems. That's not what I'm out here trying to promote. I'm going to help you with most of your problems. And if I can't, the goal is to, send you to someone that can. So that's kind of been a very big part of my educating clients and the way that I do strategy with them and things like that.
That's so good. It's almost like having you be the GC of the business, right? In a sense where you're there as your clients know that you're part of the team, you're a resource for them, and that you'll point them in the direction. And I think that's why, your industry is so heavily based on referrals. I think because the consumer views you guys that way as very trustworthy, very, very well. I need to call my attorney, and I know they don't always do it, but generally, right, they do what you say. Yeah. Because either they're paying you for that, and they realize, well, what am I paying if I'm not going to do it?
They'll come back, because I've had that as well. You know, there's people that I've talked to, and they're like, oh, it's not in my budget right now, when it's like things that like they need for compliance. So it's like, okay, just realize that. Then at that point, I have to let them know, like, you are running a risk. And if you don't do that, like, this is my proof that I told you, right. This is what you needed. So if you don't decide to do it because it doesn't fit your budget right now, then unfortunately your budget will not handle what could happen if you don't have
it.
So that's a big part of it too. And I think that general counsel role is really what I think prompted me to open my law firm, because I saw myself as that team member for businesses without being under their payroll. And that's why I started with the subscription options, because that's really what I like to do the most. I like to answer questions. I like to put business owners' minds at ease and work through issues. Everything else that I do is flat fee based, project based. I don't do retainer. I don't work on hourly or anything like that. If you have a need for a bundle of documents, or, you know, intake forms, or an operating agreement, or whatever the case, that will be priced accordingly. But the subscription service and the clients that I have on that are those ones that are crushing it, because their mindset is very much like, I want peace of mind all the time. And the lowest tier that I offer is really just that. It's like the baseline of peace of mind, which is access to me without, you know, booking an appointment each time, without having to, you know, do an engagement agreement each time we talk or scope it out and things. It's really just an avenue for having an attorney that's on your team. They're part of your business without being in your business. And that's become like a great resource for clients that are in that mindset of like, I want to do this correctly. And from there, they know that whatever decision they make, whatever contract they receive, they're going to have someone ready to look it over that knows their business, has all the background information already, and it just becomes a lot easier. And I think that if you asked a business owner if they have someone like that, I don't think many of them would tell you that they do. And I feel like in the healthcare field specifically, it's so important because you're dealing with a lot of sensitive information. It's a lot of, you know, sensitive topics. A lot of my clients work with minors. So it's a lot of things that are constantly changing, and they're very sensitive. So getting it right is really important.
I mean, it really is a matter of saving your business or not. Like getting it wrong is costly in that industry. Very. This is so fascinating. I love this. I love this. And I love, obviously I'm a big fan, and I love that, you know, you're for the small guy, you know, you're like on the bench.
Underdog.
I love that. I love that. Let's talk about your business quickly. What do you think has been the biggest lesson you have learned about yourself during this entrepreneurship journey?
Oh, that's a great question. I think I have learned to like bet on myself, I think, because I've always heard like, oh, how do you do it all? Or like, you're so great at you're so great at that. And I always thought I was being humble when I was like, no, like anyone can do it. But I think I'm learning like there's a lot of value that I bring. And I learned that in many ways. And one example would be my pricing. So this will be my 3rd year owning the law firm. And I learned that I was definitely underpricing what I was doing. And I wasn't giving enough value because, you know, in my smaller mindset was I'm not coming from big law. Like I don't have this executive experience. And it's like, you know, just because someone comes from big law, they don't necessarily have all the answers or all the experience either. Like there's many facets to that world. So I think that leaning into my personal experience and leaning into how I am with people and how I care differently and how I even got to being a business owner and understanding everything that goes into it is something that's really valuable. And, you know, betting on myself and putting more of a price on that is not easy, but I learned that it's necessary to be a better business owner, to, you know, better give, counsel to my business owner clients, because that's, we provide real value, and it's important to not only see myself in that, but it helps the work that I do. It almost, continues to elevate the level of work that I provide.
It's fascinating to me how, I don't make the prices, right, for what I do. So I'm lucky there. I don't, because that's difficult. And I've heard it from several people, and even in other industries, right? Just when you're on your own, putting your packages together, putting your adding a dollar sign to your time. It shows, not, I don't want to say directly like what you think about yourself. It's not that like tied. But I think that there is a level of especially at the beginning, right? Like you got to get paid. You got to grow. You got to get some clients. So you try to get some in the door. I think everyone's guilty of that, right? Just to get some in the door. But the faster you realize that, you're a professional, that you're worth it, and practice, right? Saying the pricing and talking about money. People just don't talk about money.
And for that, I feel like that's why it's so important to have mentors. And I feel like I have like 2 or 3 that I can think of right now, women attorneys that have just been so incredibly helpful, kind, just willing to give honest advice. I can like picture, sitting in front of one of these women right now and being like, this is what I'm charging. And she was just like, no. Like, you need to double it. And I was like, double it? Are you sure? And it's just like, hearing it from someone else is so
it's
important.
Validating. Yeah.
It's validating. And just being seen like that, I think, just like back to that team aspect, like I need a team. Like I need people that I can ask these questions to, because I'm figuring it out as I go. And, hearing them say like, yes, this is closer to what you should be charging. This is how you should do this. You should change your intake process. Things like that. Having a mentor in that field is important, and none of them do business law. So it doesn't really matter. It's just like a business mindset. You're not born with it.
No, I was just going to say that's also something that needs to be learned, right?
Yeah.
It's this entrepreneurship thing. We do it and then we realize, like we got to build ourselves in order to build our business.
Yeah.
And I think that that's something that I've noticed maybe in myself recently is I have done a lot of work on myself to grow, to be able to grow the business, right? Like if I don't grow, the business isn't growing. And that shift for you is the prime example.
Yeah. It's almost like you should invest in personal development first before business development.
Right.
Because none of this will work if your mind is not aligned.
That's what Lauren Klein, I had her on the pod.
Love
my
Lauren.
gosh, probably about 30 episodes ago. Yeah, she's great. But she's dedicated. Obviously she's an attorney, but she's dedicated to helping, attorneys and the newer attorneys with this mindset, because it is real. It's and it is limiting for sure, because obviously it worked. People are paying you the price.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's what you find out. It's like you put it out there. It's super scary. And then you're like, the clients that are for me, that see my value, and I'm still not charging some crazy amount that maybe you'd get out a huge, health law firm or business law firm, but it's the right thing to do. And they value that because they're doing it with their parents that they're working with, and they're not negotiating their hourly sessions, So it's learning, doing that. It's, putting more value on yourself and like just believe in you
and just reminding yourself every day that it's a thing. Tell me about, I don't know if you like read books. Like, are you a big reader? I mean, you said a writer. Do you like to read?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Like, what's the best business book that you've read? What do you think?
Oh man,
that made the most impact on you?
I will say I do take shortcuts when it comes to business books. I have an app called Headway. Have you heard of that?
No, give it to us.
Okay. This is not sponsored. And it's like really expensive per year. So I don't recommend downloading it. But it's basically an app that summarizes like these books that are very much like personal development, business development. They have parenting books on there. And I was at a point, and I actually ended up getting it when I opened my law firm. And I was at a point where I was like, I know nothing. I need to work on the way I think. I need to like talk about like what's profits, like profit and loss. What does that even mean?
That's why I did Goldman Sachs.
Like, how am I supposed to look? So I consumed a lot of literature. I probably could only quote you like a couple, like, you know, like the 4 laws of power, or like, you know, all the cliche ones that everyone knows, have all been, you know, together helping me with that mindset shift. And just, I used to do it every day when I was first starting, because I'm telling you, it was like touch and go. Yeah. Like today, I am 10 times more sure of myself, and I know that I'm not gonna quit, and I'm gonna keep going, and I have goals, and I see light. It's far, but and
if it's not a cloudy day, it's real bright. But you know, I'm so happy, and thank you for being so honest and vulnerable about it, because this is the reality.
Yeah.
I mean, you could be 15 years in and you still have these feelings, or you could be 3. I mean, I'm 6 and I have some mornings I wake up and I'm like, what am I doing this for?
I would like just put one on. I would put a summary on, because I needed it. Like, and it was one of those things where like I didn't want to hear it from my mom. I didn't want to hear it from my husband, because they love me, and they're gonna tell me, they're gonna be honest with me, but they're gonna tell me, you know, fun things. And sometimes these books, you know, they're very real with you, and they, you know, they call you out on your negative thinking, or like, you know, thinking small and not having aspirations, and like what ambition really looks like for you. And it teaches you a lot about yourself and how you want to show up, what kind of business owner you want to be, what, you know, be out in the world, what kind of mom I want to be, what kind of wife, daughter. Like it's great.
Let's talk about that, because for those that don't know, so you're at law school and you're pregnant.
Oh yeah. It's fun times.
Yeah. How did that feel?
Scary. I don't know. I think about it now, and it would have been so easy to quit then. I was in my first year of law school. Towards the end, I was going to my like 1L year finals, like super sick. That's why I say fun times.
Gosh.
And that was definitely a moment where the old me, which I totally would have wanted to, would have just been like, forget it, like too hard, way too hard. And I think that if I didn't have the support that I had in that time from my parents, from my in-laws, from my husband, like that would not have, and from my friends, like that were in the thick of it in law school, those are like your people, I would not have gotten up to this point. Like all those little experiences. So yeah, that was definitely a pivotal moment for me. It'll always be a pivotal moment for me for many reasons, and, you know, into like the motherhood conversation and into the career conversation, just because there were a lot of decisions that I made during that time, which I never took credit for. It was always really hard for me to take any credit for that. People would be like, oh my gosh, like whenever I say that, like to some people, it's a very big deal. And to me, it's like, that was just like, that just happened. And now I'm here. But, you know, thinking about it like more honestly, it's like, yeah, that was a lot.
A lot.
And I'm very grateful for all the help I had. And I wouldn't have been able to do it, you know, without that, because there's, you know, you can't take your kid to law school. So, yeah, that was
It's interesting too, because it's like, I mean, I'm not a mom, so I wouldn't know what that felt like, but I've heard, you know, it's pretty terrible. You know, like the sickness and just even the fear that everything having to do with birthing a child at that time while you're so preoccupied. And then, but it's not even that. I feel like maybe the first year was easy in comparison to like the birth, and then the no sleep, the taking care of, like the studying. Yeah.
So like at that time, my first year, I was super involved. I've always been very involved. Like in undergrad, I was very involved. Now I'm back involved in my undergraduate stuff. But that really changed who I was, because I was now only focused on raising a child and passing and doing well in law school. Like I still made dean's list. I still, I didn't get to really be part of a lot of clubs in terms of, leadership positions, which was my jam. Like I always loved, being like a treasurer of this, a historian of that, a like president, vice president. Like I loved being in everything. So not doing that because my focus was different was tough. But in the end, it paid off because I did well. I knew that I wouldn't have been able to balance all of that with what I was focused on, which was being a mom. And I don't regret that at all. I think that it's shaped who I am today in like the best way possible. And I love sharing all of this with my daughter, with my son now. He's 9. So that's been a really great experience, from that. I don't like to think about that time very much though. Being in that was like not great and not fun because it's a lot, but
it's almost like one of those things where like why can't you start a business? Look at what you've already done.
Right.
Of course you can do it.
Yeah, I can say that now. But
I know. Yeah, but even on the days that you have the bad day, right? Like you've already done something that's near impossible.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, you didn't just survive law school. You were on the dean's list. Yeah. You weren't just doing the bare minimum.
Right.
You thrived through it. I think that's part of your character, which is amazing. And that's who you want on your team, right? As a business owner, you want someone that is that dedicated to winning and to like accomplishing your own goals, right? Because then I know you're going to help me with mine.
Yeah.
Like that's just natural. That's who you are.
Yeah. That's who I am, guys.
It's true. About leadership, what would you say that your style is of leadership?
Ooh, I've never been asked that question. My style, like, can you expand on that a little bit?
Like, what would you want when you hire a team? What do you want to want your team to view you as? Like, are you the fair leader? Are you compassionate? Are you like the let's go run through a wall? Like, what do you think?
I think I'm like stern, but loving. Mm-hmm. I have never been like called like the B word.
Yeah.
in leadership role.
Right.
I've always been like a team player. Mm-hmm. I've always been on teams, so that's come easy for me too. And I've always been in a lot of leadership roles. And for me, it's like communication first and having open channels of communication and being very transparent about things. So I think that it's really important, or my leadership style would revolve around expectation and being very clear about what's expected, because I guess personally, maybe now with my business hat, it's changed. And as I've gotten older, it's changed, but I used to always just lead with fun first. Mm-hmm. I'm very much about like, let's have a good time.
Oh my God, me too. All of my life, my decisions were based off of, am I going to have, well, that's why I'm not a mom. I just was like, wait, it's going to get in the way of me having all the fun. Like I used to base my decisions on where I would go. If I hung out with you and you weren't that fun, there probably wasn't a second or a third. Like that's so funny that you say that. And I think I haven't realized that. Yeah, well, you just gave me an aha moment. I didn't realize that maybe that's why I actually struggle with leadership. I don't think I'm a great leader. I'm working on it every day. And I think also for me, it also has to do that I'm not a mom, because like motherhood is a form of leadership. Yeah. You guys are molding humans.
Interestingly enough, there's like different types of leadership. Like I'm not the big disciplinarian in my home. Like that's definitely my husband. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like not naturally like that. Like I will discipline, and like, obviously like you're not going to let your kids do whatever they want. But I don't lead with that. Mm-hmm. Like that's not on the forefront of my mind. And maybe it's because I didn't grow up with that. Mm-hmm. And I turned out okay.
Yeah. I think so.
But yeah, like with, in the leadership scope, I think I'm all about having a good time. I think that if you're not happy, if you're not having a good time, you're not going to want to work or volunteer or do whatever it is that the goal is. So I think fun is still important. Mm-hmm. I think that to do it correctly, or to get things accomplished within a certain amount of time, to not waste time and things like that, you have to have boundaries, which I had to learn what that word meant in like probably the worst ways in my life. But so important to have boundaries set up, to set those expectations, to be very clear communication, and not think that people know what's expected. Because, you know, I've been in charge of groups and things here and there that I don't have a big team. I'm a true solo. I have someone that helps me here and there with intake. Right. But so like, that's what I look for whenever I go to hire someone. I'm going to want someone that is a people person, that can smile, you know, like can take things a little bit not as serious, because I don't think that's a good way to view life either. But know that there are, you know, certain things like deadlines and certain things that they can and can't say because of the scope of the job. So, and that can apply to anything, volunteer or paid. So I think setting those parameters, I don't know what that you would call that. I feel like there's like something at the tip of my tongue that's like stern, but it's not tough love. It's something else, but we'll trademark it.
Yeah. No, I love that. I think that's, and it's necessary too, because I think that even the younger generation, like they're not working for those people that are just like rigid and you can't have a personality.
There's a huge shift away from that.
Well, I think that we finally realized, maybe, I mean, your parents have been entrepreneurs much longer than mine, but like I saw my parents in corporate America. My dad used to work for a company that ended up, they were like the Netflix Blockbuster. It was a brake part company. They didn't shift with the times and they closed. And then he ended up getting a job with UPS. And so the culture from a mom and pop business that he had worked at for probably 15, 16 years to that UPS rigid corporate, it was awful on him. It pushed him into entrepreneurship. He just couldn't take it. He just couldn't take it. And I don't know that how much longer those types of companies are going to be around, because I don't know who they're going to be able to fit into that seat, because I think as a generation, we've just become more aware of quality of life matters.
Yeah.
And what is all of this for?
Yeah. The environment that you're in, that
everything
you choose to stay in. And I don't think it's a perfect world mentality to create a positive work culture and you know, do that. I think we have like friends that are entrepreneurs, and you know, they do like a book club in their company, and you know, embedding things like that are things that they matter and they show up in the numbers eventually. Oh,
absolutely.
I think it's difficult for some people to correlate that, but it absolutely does.
Yeah. So let's talk briefly about your rock star piece on, and now it's interesting. I want the audience here to hear your take on everything. So, just give it to us. Emma Greed, if you don't know who she is.
Shout out Emma.
You should. But you know, she was catching some heat recently about her book and about her position on not just being a mom, but working from home and what that does to your career. And I think that the internet is such a wild place, right? Because if you're offended by it, it's not for you, right? Like you're not the audience, because if you have a very great 6-figure job and you're working from home and you don't want more, congratulations. Then you made it. Yeah. Right.
I think the whole conversation, obviously, because the media is what it is today. Sure. You know, you hear 3-hour mom and it's like, oh my gosh,
how could she?
Immediate judgment.
Right.
But I think that's why it works so well, because now everyone's like, what did she even talk about? What's her book about? And that's, you know, it's a great marketing angle, which I've seen people talk about that as well. But I think that in those types of conversations, like I guess the broad scope of this whole conversation is you take what you want out of it, right? And you can do that for anything. You can do this for this podcast. You can do that for a book you read. It's going to apply to you specifically differently. And I think there's some things that, you know, people are maybe afraid to deal with that she talks about, which, you know, if you're not ready to deal with those things, then don't. Like, maybe come back to it. Maybe read the book another time. I'm almost done with the book right now, and I'm noticing like there's things she talks about that I'm like, I can't relate. And I, you know, just like, okay, that was your experience. Cool. Like I could never do that. Or I don't think I could see myself doing that. And then but the most important part of that is her story, which is why I shared my story. And it's that everybody has a different outlook on things, a different opinion, because they have a different experience. And I think that looking at people's experience and, understanding it or trying to understand it and kind of being there for them telling that story is a big part of it. And not everyone can do that. I think it's just easier to judge and just take that one little phrase out, the 3-hour mom, and be like, oh, that's insane. But yeah, I've talked to a lot of people about it, about the interview. I've talked to friends that don't have kids. I've talked to friends that have kids. I've talked to friends that are fully remote, that are not remote. And it's just like, it depends. It depends. Everything is independent. The law, we could talk about a lot of things that I work on, but it will depend on your situation, on the way that your business is set up and all those things. So
what triggered you to write it?
So I was scrolling on TikTok, as people do, and I saw someone talking about it like hot take. And I, to be completely honest, did not really know who Emma Green was. I had just heard about her from a friend, and she was like telling me about the book and like, it's so good. And I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, that's cool. Maybe I'll look into it. I'm going to see if it's on Headway first.
I was going to say, is it in the app?
I literally looked and it's not. It's not. That's why I'm reading the whole thing. But yeah, like that triggered me to like have an opinion immediately. Cause I have a story, right? I have my own story of watching my mom be an entrepreneur or become an entrepreneur and hustle and have ambition in this country that was so, strange to her, and deal with all these different things that were very adverse and difficult. And then, have my own experience, have a child the way that I did, and go into law and all that. And so it impulsed me to share a little tidbit about having a baby in law school. That's where it started. And the conversation opened the door to so many people sharing like their own version of what they saw in the Emma Green discussion or conversation. And so many other things that I had not even thought about that came up just from the comment section of that original post. And so someone, reached out and they were like, this is like such a great opportunity to share more, because like they knew I had a bigger story, and I was like, I'm going to do it. Like, I was about to share something else in another like group on LinkedIn. And I was like, okay, instead of doing that, I'm just going to like put it all together in one place. And I literally wrote it in one day, and it was like so easy because it was my story. Like, I'm not, there's no research behind it. There's
original to you.
Yeah. There's no like rule book. It's literally just my lived in experience based on this conversation happening in the media right now. And, how I relate, how I don't, and how the main point that I wanted to leave in the article is that we should be able to do life however we want, and not need approval or not feel like there is a certain specific way to do things. So like, have kids, don't have kids, be an entrepreneur, don't be an entrepreneur. Like, there's a lot of shame now, I think. Like you said, a lot of people are becoming entrepreneurs, seeing like the value in doing it and that they can do it too. That there's a lot of shame now in people that do 9 to 5,
right,
that clock out and that are not in the hustle culture. And there shouldn't be. Everyone should do what works best for them, for their life, for what, the idea of balance looks like for them. And the whole point was that we all have stories. No one's story is going to look the same, but being able to have that freedom and that permission, like giving yourself that permission is like such a big word around this whole conversation. Because I feel like a lot of times we're just looking for permission, like permission to like, yeah, you can open your own business, like permission to like, yeah, like you don't have to have kids, or like, yeah, you should have kids. Like that permission word is like such a key point in all of this. And I hope that the message was like, you have the permission to do what works for you. Like,
I love it. We're gonna put it in the show notes, the link to the article, because it's an incredible. I mean, you can feel how personal it is for you, and it's impactful to read how, you know, this idea too that also I think the internet has just made a bunch of soft people where it's like just because you want to do you're in the grind and you want to be here, you're choosing to be here, it makes you, for example, a bad mom, right? Mm-hmm. Like, no, everyone doesn't have to choose either or. Some people have the structure in their life to do both or three or whatever they want, to your point. And I found myself even judging myself, and I caught it like right away because the 3-hour mom being in the title triggered me. Mm-hmm. Cause I was like, I'm not a 3-hour mom. Or like, I don't want people to think I'm a 3-hour mom. It's like, you know what? Some days I'm like a 0-hour mom. And I talked to my kids about this too, mainly my daughter, because she's 13 and she actually read the article and like, you know, can understand what I'm talking about and how I'm feeling. And it's, you know, it doesn't matter. We create that judgment and we create that stigma on like a certain amount of time. And I think that the quality over quantity conversation comes into play there. You know, I think at the end of the day, I'm very comfortable with the type of mom that I am, no matter how many hours I clock in per week. It's like, actually, I'm always a mom. Like I'm a mom right now. Right. And what I'm doing for myself, for my business, in the end translates to the type of mom that I am. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I think love that. You could say that like Emma Grede is mom 24/7 too. Right. Because what she's doing is not just for her. It's for her legacy. So good. Yeah. Last question, real quick. What is the best piece of business advice you could leave the audience with? My best piece of business advice is to not do it alone. Depending on what that looks like for you, it might be different, but have people that you can turn to, have mentors. Don't do it alone. Don't do it with the computer. I tried doing that for a long time and I almost quit because it's just too difficult and it's a mind game that you don't want to go down that road. And then it could be too late if you decide that's the way you want to do it. So not only in terms of team, like professional teams and having the right professional teams on your side, but the mentorship and the support is so important. And I know that I wouldn't be here without all of that. Great advice. Thank you so much for your time and for being here with us. I mean, this was not scary at all. No, and it went by so fast. Look at us go. Tell everybody where they can find you. So I am LF Porro Law everywhere. LF Porro Law at Instagram. On LinkedIn, it's just Lidice F Porro, Lidice Ferreira Porro, and my website is www.lfporrolaw.com. And we'll also put it in the show notes. Thank you, friend. Thank you.